Okay, so we are very pleased this afternoon that Jason Winston is going to treat us to a little bit of Mussar, and he'll explain to you what that is. And Jason has been involved with the Mussar Institute for a long time and is very active with it. So we are very happy to have Jason. And since we have a service at 4 o'clock that's for the kids, if you need to go on beyond 4 o'clock, that will be just fine. So Jason, please begin.
Okay, well, welcome. I thank you all for coming. I would invite anyone who feels comfortable to put on your cameras if you are able to. I think there's something really important about seeing each other and seeing all of the individuals, as we would say in Mussar speak, the neshamot, the holy souls who are with us. And it's wonderful that we have people who have come to share with us. So what I'm going to basically guide you through, I'm not going to teach you anything. I'm going to facilitate some things for you, and I'll introduce myself in a minute. But I want to start just by giving you a little centering exercise, which should be helpful for getting us into a little bit of sacred space together. So I invite you to find your position that you're comfortable in, if you are in a chair or couch or wherever you are. And I invite you to think as you're breathing in to open yourself to receptivity, to openness, to what's here, to be open to it, to receive it, and to breathe in all of that welcoming, and to push out the distractions, the other things that are going on, what happened before, what's going to come later, and to try to bring yourself to a place of presence. And I invite you to close your eyes if you would like, and just start by taking a few deep cleansing breaths. As you're breathing, keep your focus on your breath. Be aware of any tensions throughout your body, in your neck, your back, your arms, your legs. Make an effort to release those tensions with those breaths out. And bring your focus to feel your feet if they're on the floor. Become completely aware of the feeling of resting your feet on the floor and they are supported. Next, feel your legs, your thighs on your chair. Feel your way up, your stomach, your midsection, your arms, your fingers, your shoulders, your neck, and your head. Be aware of your breathing in and out. Be aware of your thoughts. Still your mind and bring your complete focus to the here and now. And I invite your complete self here, mind, body, and soul. When you feel some peace and comfort with this, when you're ready to open your eyes, I welcome you to bring your attention to our virtual, what I will call a VOD, a meeting. And of course, I'm getting a bad internet connection right at this moment. Is everyone hearing and seeing me still? Am I good? Are you losing me?
Still there. You're still there. It
Okay.
keeps going in and out a little bit, but you're fine.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's kind of slow.
okay.
It's delayed.
I hate when you get that little message right at the worst possible time. Happened last night, right when I was about to do the candles. My computer completely died out just at the candle lighting. But I had my phone handy, so I was able to get on. Okay, so let me just give you a very brief introduction. For those who don't know me, I know most of you, but not all. My name is Jason Winston. I've been a congregant here for about 20 years or so, I think, and not quite, but and I was introduced to the idea of the world of Mussar by the predecessor to Rabbi Singer, Rabbi Yitzi. He taught a little class and he invited me to join it. He said, I think you'll find this stuff interesting. And that sort of started my journey into understanding and exploring what this world is, that there is a rich Jewish spiritual tradition that is not necessarily visible in the regular prayer book, and it's not necessarily part of what we learn in our traditional holiday celebrations, or even, it's there, but it's not always apparent to us. And what I'm really appreciative for is that in our High Holiday Prayer book, this is the Yom Kippur book, they actually devoted a huge section of the afternoon service to this idea of introspection. There's no really easy way to define Mussar exactly, but I would say it is an attempt to take a look at our own individual characteristics, and it is a sometimes intense look at how you are in the world. It is giving yourself an opportunity to take advantage of teachings, but it's really about practice. And Mussar is, you have to sort of have an understanding, but it's mostly about what you do, just as Judaism and the mitzvot are mostly about actions. It's not necessarily what you believe, it's what you do. And so I'm going to try to get us a chance to do some talking in small groups as we move through this, so that you'll actually get a chance to think about some of these things. But ultimately, the key is what you do going forward, and how you're able to use this is really just about what you're willing to try and open yourself to. And I'm hoping to just give you a little taste of what it is that this is. As Rabbi noted, I do facilitate for the Mussar Institute. I do mostly, now I've been doing groups online for the past couple years quite consistently. I have people from all over the country. I had some people from Canada. And I've done groups at Temple in the past. The last time we tried to get one going was about 2 years ago. A lot of people showed interest, and then just when it came time to sign up, a lot of people had other things going on, and we didn't quite get it off the ground. But I'm always welcome to hear if there's enthusiasm and we want to try to start one. I've got ready-made curriculum. So something I want to try to give you some perspective. I'm going to read you a little something from some Mussar Institute materials that I have. There's a Rabbi, Yisrael Salanter, who is credited with founding the modern Mussar movement in basically the early 1800s in Lithuania. And from his disciples, there were 3 major schools that formed in Eastern Europe. We lost a large majority of the practitioners in the Holocaust, but some moved to various parts of the world and opened up yeshivas in various places, including in Israel and in the United States. And we're blessed to have the teachings that have moved forward. Much of what I have done in recent time has come through Alan Marinas, who is the dean of the Mussar Institute. You may know some of his books. He has come to speak at Temple a couple times. This was his first book. It's called Climbing Jacob's Ladder. It shares his journey of how he discovered Mussar. His most practical book for understanding how to do these things is Everyday Holiness, where he devotes chapters to the individual soul traits, or midot, as we refer to them, the characteristics that we look at. He's got several books. But Yisrael Salanter, there's a little story that kind of helps to explain the inspiration. The story says that Salanter one evening was passing by a shoe repair shop, and he saw the shoemaker working very late by the light of a flickering candle. When Rabbi Salanter asked him why he was still working, the man replied, "As long as the candle burns, there is still time to make repairs." Salanter was stunned by the reply. He repeated the words to himself over and over. As long as the candle is still burning, there is time to make repairs. What it meant to him was that as long as the light of the neshama, your soul, still burns, there is still a chance to improve oneself. That is the journey to holiness. As long as the candle is still burning, there's time to make repairs. And there's a tremendous parallel here because we are in the dawning or the concluding hours of Yom Kippur, and the message that this part of the service is all about is that before sundown, we have time to make teshuvah, to do something to make the end of this year, moving into the next year, a pledge of some kind, an attempt to make whole anything that's broken, and to be able to move forward into next year with the fullness of our heart that we want to project into the world. And I'm going to share with you some slides that come from our, this actually is just directly out of what's in our prayer book. And I'm going to get this into slideshow mode. Hopefully, no, you're not seeing the right, are you seeing the slides or no?
Yes, I'm saying the heart of Yom Kippur afternoon is Tikkun
Yeah,
Mikvot.
is it big?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's great.
For whatever reason, I'm getting a different message than I should get, but that's good. You're seeing what I want you to see. So the heart of Yom Kippur afternoon is Tikkun Midot HaNefesh, often called Tikkun Midot, repairing and strengthening the personal qualities and traits that enable us to fulfill our urge to be good, virtues such as love, self-discipline, gratitude, and forgiveness. In the tradition of Mussar, which is sometimes spelled with one S and sometimes with two, they call it the ethical way. Hatafila, the afternoon prayer service is structured around this, but we have just done pieces of it with Rabbi. But it aims to place righteousness and goodness at the center of our everyday lives. So what we don't have a chance to do during our service is to sort of go through. They have 7 sections in the prayer book that include different characteristics, and I'm going to look at 2 of them with you in part, just as a way to get us some introduction. And the bottom gives you a little bit of history of what it's about. And I think the key sentence here is the discipline of Mussar is based on close study of important texts, systematic evaluation of one's behavior. So when we use the phrase cheshbon hanefesh, which translates something to accounting of the soul, that is the systematic evaluation. It is traditionally done with journaling, with some kind of way of noting how did I do with that behavior. And I will say this is not a uniquely Jewish concept. Benjamin Franklin's famous book on the virtues, he had a almost identical system that he used in how he and used many of the same traits, in fact, and other cultures do as well. So what I like about this is it's a way, but it's a Jewish way, and it speaks to me because it connects to other things in the Jewish world that allow me to make all of these things more meaningful, because it makes prayer service more meaningful when you understand some of the things that are behind it and some of the things that are going on here. But ultimately, Mussar is about practice. It's about trying to actually do these things in the world. So actually, I believe Rabbi read this, but this is exactly what the point is. How is it possible for a human being to walk in God's ways? As God is called compassionate, so too you should be compassionate. As God is called gracious, so too you should be gracious and give freely. As God is called just, so too you should be just. As the Holy Blessed One is called kind and loving, be kind and loving as well. And thus, for all the qualities ascribed to the Holy Blessed One, to walk in God's ways is to emulate God. So this is essentially what we are invited to do, is to look at God's traits and try to examine our traits. And can we just move a little bit higher on the level, right? We're not trying to be God, we're just trying to increase our holiness in the world and increase the goodness in the world, the justice in the world, the patience in the world, the gratitude in the world. And we can only do that for ourselves and by doing our own. And hopefully we not only feel better about who we are, but we also bring more of it into the world and benefit. So tikkun olam is tied to this idea of that tikkun olam, the healing of the world, is tied to the idea of healing ourselves as well as healing the world, and the two are somewhat interknit in our tradition. Anyway, there's so much you could talk about with this. So I wanted to start with one trait, which is chesed. As Rabbi talked about, one of the three pillars the world stands on is what we call gimilut chasadim. Chasadim has the same root of chesed. It is loving kindness. It is that same SD sound chasadim has as chesed. And we use the word loving kindness broadly. And as this tells us here, the word chesed as used in the Bible does not refer to a single one-way expression of kindness or mercy. The essence of chesed is mutual loyalty and allegiance between human beings or between human beings and God. It is best understood.
Are you trying to show us another slide? Because I still have the first slide up, only the first
Really?
slide to show.
Well, gosh, I've been changing all sorts of slides, so hang on.
It says Heart of Yom Kippur afternoon is tikkun, but that
Well,
was the only that I'm
Thank you
seeing.
for telling me, and I couldn't see. Okay. I've been reading my slides.
You've
Thinking,
been reading the slides. Yeah,
All
I was
right.
wondering. what am I
Let's
just-
try this because they changed the way this works. Okay. Are you now seeing steadfast love, the virtue of Hesed?
I see. What is Hesed?
Yes.
The word.
Yay! Well,
Yes.
you know, what would it be without a technical glitch? See, I'm not the Zoom master you thought I was, Eric. Okay. So you didn't miss anything. It was just me basically reading what was on there. So what is chesed? The word chesed as used in the Bible does not refer to a single one-way expression of kindness or mercy. The essence of chesed is mutual loyalty and allegiance between human beings or between human beings and God. It is best understood within the context of reciprocal rights, responsibilities, and duties. So here's just a little bit more on where this word, because if we want to talk about it, we have to kind of understand it. What is chesed? It is usually translated as kindness, but it also means love. Not love as emotion or passion, but love expressed as deed. Theologians define chesed as covenant love. Covenant is the bond by which two parties pledge themselves to one another, agreeing to join their separate destinies into a single journey that they will travel together. This is from Rabbi Sachs. Chesed is the love that is loyalty, and the loyalty that is love. It is born in the generosity of faithfulness, the love that means being ever present for the other in hard times as well as good, love that grows stronger, not weaker, over time. Those who know it experience the world differently from those who do not. It is not for them a threatening and dangerous place. It is one where trust is rewarded precisely because it does not seek reward. Chesed is the gift of love that begets love. So in practical terms, what is Chesed? Here's one example of what is and what is not Chesed as it is described in the Mussar tradition. So let us say you are walking down the street and somebody who is walking the same direction as you is carrying a bunch of bags, and you see that they are burdened and you offer to help and you walk with them. That is kindness, but it doesn't rise to the level of chesed. If they're walking in the opposite direction, going away from where you're headed, and you help them and go out of your way, now it's moved into the realm of chesed, right? Chesed involves a stretch. It involves an act where you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, beyond your safety, because you are trying to do an act that's really loving. But it doesn't mean that they need to be big things. Small things are important too.
So,
I've-
Jason,
Yes, please.
if I may get some clarification,
Yeah,
a love of a child to a grandmother, unconditional, genuine love would be part of this definition.
I would call that more, what I think the word is ahava, right? Love. That's more a, there is
Emotional
filial
love.
love, there is a relational love. Chesed is more about wanting to bring good into the world as a way of bringing more love and kindness into the world. it is, it's a little bit larger, I think, in that way.
Okay. So a gift to the grandchild, would that encompass chesed?
Well, I guess it depends on how much of a stretch the gift is, right?
Okay.
You know, I think I don't want to get too caught up
get
in
the
what the
idea.
definition is, but I want us to sort of understand that they say the world is built with chesed, meaning God didn't need to create the world. God didn't need anything, right? By definition, God has everything already. So the act of creation is considered an act of chesed. It was God stretching out to give to all of us creation for us to do something with, which was far beyond anything God had to do, right?
So Jason, you're
Yeah.
giving this presentation
Yeah.
would be chesed.
Well, I feel it's sort of well, okay, sure. If you want to, it's not a stretch for me because I do these things, but
Due respect to
you know what is a stretch?
having no hubris in your life.
Doing it in the middle of Yom Kippur afternoon when I'm very much feeling the lightheadedness and the dry mouth makes it more chesed than I otherwise would have called it. Yes.
Jason?
Yeah.
I'm thinking that of a situation years ago, like when my neighbor, whom I didn't know very well at the time, found out that he was very ill. It turned out to have been AIDS, but nobody knew about AIDS then. And his friends abandoned him and wouldn't go near him. And several of us in the building said, this is wrong. And so we took care of him until Andres died. And would that be chesed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Because it was outside the comfort zone, but my God, I mean, the man was like hurting. So.
Yeah, well, so what I'd like to do is just have you kind of explore kindness in the world without getting too fine about whether or not it qualifies. Love and kindness in all forms are important. And so I want you to look at these questions that are in bold here. And how has the chesed that I have experienced shaped the person I am and the life that I lead? What kindness has been done for you that you would love to somehow repay in the world? And who are my own models of chesed? And how have I sought to emulate them during this past year? And what I'm going to invite you to do now is I'm going to create some breakout rooms, and I'm going to set you in groups of, I'm going to go with here, like 3 per room. And I'm going to paste, let's see, where is it? I want to paste those questions into the chat so that you can see them. And what I'm going to give you is maybe 5-7 minutes in small groups of 3. And I would just like you to reflect with each other and try to expand on this idea of what chesed that you've experienced that has helped to shape you, and what pieces you might hope to emulate as you go forward in life. What are some small acts of kindness that perhaps would be stretches that you haven't undertaken that you could perform in the coming year? And think about that. Does that give you enough guidance to jump off and, okay. Breakout rooms. Let's see, there are 29 people here. We'll do, I'll do 9 rooms should be good. And I'm gonna send you off, and I will send a chat message when it's close to coming back, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss. And I think we'll have some good stuff going. Go to your rooms. We paused the recording before. I hope that was useful. And what I would love is if some of you would volunteer to share any sort of insight or thought or something that came out of your discussion that you think you'd like to bring to the larger group. You can just unmute and talk if you like. We're not that big a group.
If I may share, I think there's a love and appreciation of the rabbi. So if I may share that, one of the members of our chat group certainly recognized the rabbi. And it was curious to me that her comment was not in love or appreciation. I guess that wouldn't be under the definition of Hesed because that's emotional, but listening. The rabbi gave her the gift of listening, and I think that qualifies.
Yeah.
Jason.
It sure does, yeah.
So I thought that was a beautiful message.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go to visit the sick or, visit a grieving family or, I mean, those are usually out of most people's comfort zones. And that's almost always a stretch for people, but yet so valuable.
Yes, yes. Active listening, yes.
Okay.
I think that there was, in our group, we noted that a lot of not only us, but a lot of other people went out of their way to make sure that people had basic stocks and everything else under lockdown when they were housebound and couldn't do it. And so you would have, like, my daughter and her girlfriend would do the Costco run, and get enough for the entire neighborhood, right? And things like that. And that to me was chesed. And then we were musing about why it was hard for us to imagine doing it, because Susan was saying everything felt so natural. And I said, well, it's the way we were socialized, really, because we were socialized as women to be giving. And so you don't notice it as chesed, or you don't notice it as going out of your way. You do it, A, because it needs to be done, and B, that's part of who you are. You just have to do it. And so and it's not naturalized in the sense of men are different than women, but the socialization is different. And so one gets more naturalized than the other. And so it's less likely for women to notice that it's chesed.
That's interesting. We were talking to riff on that, Christine, about how sometimes, or how it feels like the chesed is received in a much bigger way than it's given. I know that
Yes.
Jason had mentioned earlier about this little things, these small things going out of your way, or taking the extra moment, or recognizing somebody is can be almost a throwaway on the giver side, but on the receiver side, it's received hugely.
That's really
so it feels like a big chesed.
Wow, that's really true. Wow.
And I think what you're showing is that you've received acts that felt strong to you, and you understand what it's like to be the recipient. And I think that's a great motivator for us to pass it forward.
I think for many people who became teachers, there was someone in their life who basically looked to their future and gave them a chance and really went to bat for them, who didn't have to. It wasn't part of their job description, right? And then a lot of people who received that, like me, feel like, this is like the pay it forward trite rendition of it, but we tried to do that for other people going through. Okay, we got to be teachers, so let's make the path easier for somebody else.
Was that in your life, Christine?
Oh, yes, that was in my life.
No. Who was that?
Oh, she was the administrative assistant. Her name was Margie Green. I will never forget her name, even though it was I don't know, God knows, in the Cretaceous. But she told me about a fellowship to go to grad school and that they were interviewing for it, and that nobody in my department had told me, even though I had I had a 4.0 from University of Michigan, it didn't get any higher. But none of the teachers told me about that, the professors. And she told me, and she said, didn't you want to be a professor? I said, yeah, but I've got to earn a living. I got to help my family. And she said, just go get interviewed, and it's complicated, but she's the one who is responsible for me being able to go to grad school.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, wonderful woman.
That's wonderful. That's very wonderful.
Yeah, but that's said, to me, this like,
Definitely, yeah.
Well, this is Joan, and we didn't have 3 in our group, only 2, and it was Bob Rosenbaum, okay? And Bob had his own little Hesed experience going on a continual basis. I don't know if people know, but he's my example, because every Friday night he would pick up people who were unable, this was pre-COVID, pick up people who were unable to drive to Temple but wanted to go to services and return them to their homes. And that was his own little project that he had, and he didn't have to do it. Nobody asked him to do it. And I so remember that and his kindness for doing that. So I had a breakout companion who was the model of doing Hesed deeds. Yes.
Yes, I remember that too.
Thank you for sharing that, Joan.
yeah.
Anyone else want to share anything or have any question that they want to put out? Margie, yeah.
Yes, I can't resist. I have to tell people about what you did for Kevin and me during COVID, because we're both high risk and we really weren't supposed to go out at all. But you, week after week, after month, you brought food to us, and it kept us healthy and it kept us happy. So thank you.
You're welcome. And Margie made jewelry that she gave us as a token of her appreciation for that. So she didn't have to do that either. And so I am very appreciative that it was reciprocated. So I have a second trait for us to look at, and it is the trait of gratitude. And in Hebrew, in Mussar, we use the phrase hakarat hatov, which translates to recognizing the good. That gratitude involves this act of really seeing, recognizing is not casual, right? It's that you're really looking for good and identifying it. And I think gratitude, I mean, they gave us 7 in this section to work on, and I thought, let's see what we can do that's kind of foundational. Well, loving kindness and gratitude just felt like the sorts of traits we all can relate to. And we probably all will acknowledge that there's a lot more gratitude that we could do in expressing and showing gratitude. It's something that we probably can't do enough of. So wherever you are on the spectrum of gratitude, I think there's room to grow in it. And that's a lot of what Mussar is about when you start practicing it, is you just try to look at where am I good, right? Like I've become very good at saying a prayer before eating, right? I say the motzi, I say that, right? But that doesn't mean that I do all the other potential brachot that are available to us. There's hundreds, right? So there's always room to grow, right? Just because you do one thing well. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to see if I can share this properly again. So give me 1 second here. Well, that didn't work because I lost all of you. So we're going to try it one more time. Okay. Okay, now the question is, will it allow me to go to broadcast mode from here? Let's find out. I think it worked this time.
Yep.
Okay, that's what I tried to do last time and it failed. So here's just a little teaching. It is good to give thanks. The psalmist exclaims, "It is good to give thanks to God." Good for whom? Do we know what God gains from our thanksgiving? We can only guess that God is pleased to have our thanksgiving, as we are pleased to receive thanks from anyone to whom we showed favor. But this is projecting our mentality upon God. Considering that each of us is less than a speck of dust in the universe, it is difficult to imagine that God gains anything from our words of thanksgiving. What good there is in thanksgiving to God goes entirely to the person who gives thanks. Gratitude opens the door to contentment, and contentment induces happiness. The American poet John Greenleaf Whittier made the keen observation that gratitude focuses on the good we enjoy in the present. No longer forward nor behind, I look in hope or fear, but grateful take the good I find, the best of now and here. To put yourself in a better mood, all you need to do is to count the things you appreciate. Gratitude is the twin of appreciation. Whether you give thanks to God or to human beings, you will be the first to benefit from Thanksgiving. So here's a few reflection questions, and I don't think it's possible to do all of these, but I think actually Rabbi had some of this up on the slide earlier. So hopefully you've already started thinking about some of these things. But I'm going to do the group breakouts again, and I'm going to just emphasize the two questions here that are in bold. But of course, if you have other thoughts that you would like to reflect on, please bring them up. But what has happened in my life since last Yom Kippur that makes me thankful? Boy, this is a challenging year. What a great time to reflect on what we have gratitude for, even among all the trials. And the third one here is, am I consistent in expressing gratitude to loved ones and friends? Do I look for things to feel grateful for or things to complain about? And I think this gives us an opportunity to think ahead about what we might want to do in the future. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to paste those questions in the chat again so you can have them in front of you. And I'm going to tell you that when I do the breakouts, have a little patience, because some of the people who are logged in here are not joining the breakouts. And so I may have to reassign a couple people, but I'm going to make them slightly larger this time. I'm going to try 4 per room. So hopefully we get at least 2 each time. And was that last one about the right amount of time, or not enough or too much? Good. Okay. So I'll set my timer for about 5 minutes, then I'll give you the 1-minute warning, and then it'll give you the breakout. And then we'll come back to this again. So I'm going to create, well, let's see, I'll create.
Camera and the microphone are both on.
Let's see, we got 27 people here and some won't join. So we'll do 7 rooms. And if I need to recreate something, I'll move people around. So
7
here you go.
rooms. Okay.
Rabbi, I know you need to go outside. So if there's am I able to stop the recording? That
I can make you the host. How's that? Then you can stop the recording when it's over.
if you would like me to do that.
But it doesn't seem like I can do that, because I think actually Andrea is the real host. So let me go ask her if she can make you the host.
Yeah, or she can just stay on and
Yeah, I'll let her
stop
know.
the recording at some point.
Yeah, I will. Thanks. Yeah, I'm going out right now.
Okay.
Bye.
Enjoy. Okay, we just have a few seconds to let everyone filter back in.
You're a Dodgers fan, huh?
I am.
Yeah, I see the hat. I have the same hat. I thought that was my hat for a minute.
Oh, the one over there?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
actually like it's actually a puzzle. It was one you have to put together into the shape of the hat.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I usually have a little Dodger flag that was right where you see the red thing behind you. That's my file cabinet, but it looked really ugly as a backdrop to my candles last night, so I covered it up.
Oh. Oh, the red's a good contrast to the candles.
It looks
I had to find something that would allow the candles to stand out a little bit. So,
Yeah, that works. Works good.
okay, looks like everybody is back. I'll share one other thought on gratitude. I was just looking at, while you were in there, I was looking at something in one of Alan Marinos's books, and he reminds us that part of gratitude is understanding that we don't know the whole story, and we can say we recognize the good, because we don't always, even if something feels bad, we still can understand that there may still be good to come that we aren't yet privy to, and we don't know how it's going to turn out. He shares a little story about from the Talmud about an individual named Nahum Ish Gamzu, it's a tough day, who personifies this attitude. He is a righteous person who comes to the last days of his life destitute, blind, without the use of his limbs, and beset with illness. And yet, as each of these devastating conditions descends on him, no matter what is happening to him, he always says of it, Gamzu l'tova, and that is also for the good. One story involving Nahum Ish Gamzu took place when the Jews wanted to send a gift to the court of Caesar, and the pious Nahum was chosen to be the emissary. He set off with a chest filled with gems and pearls. Along the way, some people secretly made off with his jewels and refilled the chest with ordinary dirt. When he discovered the switch, Nahum's response was only to say, Gamzu l'tova, this too is for the good, and to carry on with his mission. And as it turns out, at the end of the day, he ends up presenting the dirt to the emperor, but the emperor finds that suddenly that the dirt has magic properties and helps him win wars he couldn't win before, and the dirt was the most important thing he could have had, better than the jewels. Anyway, don't need to spend all day on stories, but Mussar is filled, and the Talmud is filled with these kinds of little pieces of little gems that we can latch onto. So from your discussion in your rooms, I would invite anyone who wants, again, to share some insight or some thoughts with the larger group.
I think we were all very grateful for Zoom and Temple Bethel having services online. I know I was, for sure, because I would be totally isolated for the last year and a half otherwise. Yeah, very, very grateful.
Me too. One of the things that we discussed, we were grateful for technology, and learning that this happened at this period of time where we had technology available, and also that they came up with the vaccine so soon, and grateful for the military for showing us how to open up fast hospitals under tents and give inoculations and all of those things.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, just wanted to share that. I guess for me, I'm really grateful that I'm alive. I almost died twice this past year. First for COVID pneumonia and then the stroke. So I recovered. So I'm really grateful for that.
Wow.
I think that was us too.
Very grateful for, yeah, you too, me too. Yeah, we all had COVID. Yeah.
Juan, you remind me of a story. There's a famous story of a Mussar teacher who he was having going to give a Mussar talk, and 200-300 students pack into the auditorium. They get in there, he gets up to the podium, he slams his fist on the podium. He says, "It is enough that a person is alive," and he walks away.
Point well taken.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Sometimes that's enough for all the gratitude you need, right?
Yeah.
Well,
sure.
I have to say, many of us we're very, very grateful that we have a new president.
Oh, yes.
But I don't want to get into a political discussion.
I understand that.
Can get
But
bad.
Sources of gratitude, that was one.
But also that this came out at this period of time when we have the technology. I mean, if this had happened 10 years ago, or we wouldn't have been able to connect with our family, our friends, our synagogue, or any of the support that we've
Really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh,
So what about the second question, which asked, are you consistent in expressing gratitude to loved ones and friends? Do you look for things to feel grateful for or things to complain about? Anybody have any insight from that?
well, one of the things that when, I mean, my daughter's wonderful, but when she wasn't always wonderful. And one of the things that when we were going through a very rough patch, that I decided to just tell her in general, I'm really grateful that you can express yourself. That I know what you're thinking because you're expressing yourself. And that kept me sane, first of all. And so it was selfish, but it was also, I was grateful, right? And it helped me say, keep looking at this as a phase instead of doom, right?
I love that. I think it's important to remember that things to be grateful for, things to complain about are both contagious, because the more we're talking about things that we're grateful for, the more we're feeling grateful. But if we were complaining, I think it would go the same way. And so I think identifying that and choosing which bandwagon you want to be on is something that is a learning process. But I think remembering that you can build on it and choosing which one you want to build on is important.
That's a great point, Lisa. And, if you are aware or not aware, Judaism has a lot of good building blocks in it, right? I mean, I think almost everybody should at least know the blessing over the cup of wine or bread by now, right? Or at least the basics of it, or you could fake it. And, these are things that we tend to say on Shabbat, but do you say them at other meals? And do you say them with any intentionality when you do say them? These are little opportunities that are available to you every day. Did you know that there are Jewish blessings for washing your hands or after using the restroom? Or
we're supposed to do 100 blessings a day. There's a blessing for everything. For
there
pooping,
are.
for everything.
Well, and I'll tell you, if you're actively doing them, the chances are pretty good that you're going to grow in your desire to bless and express more gratitude. And so if you're looking for small things, it's really small to pause for 5 seconds before you eat something and say, I don't want to talk about food too much here, but just to say that motzi. And even more is if you can add to it the intentionality of stopping to really think about how fortunate you are to have it, and even more to think about the people and the nature that brought it to you, right? I mean, just thinking about even one item that's on your plate and how many people had to be involved in getting it to that place and of course the miracles of nature to water it and the soil and everything and all the steps and the pickers and the trucks and the people who put it on the shelves. There are so many people to have gratitude for in that moment before you take that bite. Wow.
Although we didn't get in my group to that question, Maria Saldana and Mauricio, that I hadn't seen or talked with in a long time, I was so grateful to you, Jason, for that opportunity. And also the other opportunity I had never known of, heard of, Tammy McCoy, our Valio. Due respect to chopping up your name. I married my husband because he only has a 4-letter last name. And thank you.
That's what makes you the Jewish Pope.
Exactly. But I was so grateful for that opportunity. And, I have a great indebtedness to the temple to know such kind, caring people. And I'll embarrass Ruth and Susie Copel. Susie isn't online, but pass it along to her, Ruth, that and Regina Richards, Sue Gordon, that have been so kind and loving towards me. So I have a great deal of gratitude to the temple and the rabbi and so many of you.
And I think we
So,
all feel that way.
yeah, I wish I knew more of you, but I intend to get to know more of you. Anyway, I want to say, Jason, that your remarks about food is something I always think of, because when I eat and I buy all my produce from a little farm that is near my house, and I see those mostly men, some women working out in the fields, and their labor and their care of those living organisms that I eat to keep healthy. I always think, I cannot believe that I can buy this for the amount of money I buy it, and they have put so much love and attention into allowing those plants to grow. That's something I always think about when I have my veggies and things. So anyway.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good
You know,
lesson.
we don't have a set time where we have to finish here. Those who have just popped on recently, we were concluding a session on Mussar. The next live thing on here is not until 5 o'clock with Yizkor. So I'm happy to just keep talking, and as long as I can stay upright. I didn't have a formal conclusion or anything to this. I would just invite that if there's people who have additional things they want to ask about this path of Mussar and what it can teach you. You've just gotten just a little taste of what it means to explore accounting of the soul, or Cheshbon HaNefesh. It's just about looking at a characteristic, where do I stand with it, and trying to have a sense of what's midah is the term we use for a characteristic in Mussar, and it means measure. And there's no, it's not all good or all bad on any characteristic. Like even anger, you're supposed to have a little bit of righteous anger at minimum, because otherwise you would just be passive in the face of great injustice, right? So every characteristic, we're invited to look at where we are on the spectrum of it. And for some, we need to move this way, and for others, we need to move this way. It's all about individuals. And so the teachings are there to guide us and give us some understanding of the tradition and what we have available to us. But at the end of the day, it's the work. And just like the Torah presents us with all these mitzvot, but if you choose to do some of them, great. You know, there are very few of us, I'm sure, who do all of them. Probably a few, and God bless them, but that's hard. But, you know, I've just had a lot of wonderful growth from working on these things. It's small improvements. You don't notice vast leaps in things like this too often, right? It's just that you might someday walk outside and you are a little more struck by your appreciation for the beauty of the plants or the sky, and you just stop and you have that extra moment of gratitude that you didn't have before, or whatever it is. Or it can be in so many small ways that you just feel a little more of that. And that's really what the goal is here. It's just to give ourselves a path in this Jewish world that is available to us. And so I'm just really blessed that it was shown to me, because I could have easily gone through my whole life and never had any idea that this all existed. And, you know, I would have seen these words about walking God's ways and not had any idea what the heck it was supposed to mean. You know,
Jason, do you know, is the Mussar movement really just in the reform movement, or I haven't?
No. In fact, it was almost exclusively Orthodox for all of its existence until very recently. And, you know, it was taught in the yeshivas and it wasn't always taught in a way that people loved it. I had a study partner years ago who was in yeshiva for a while, and he said Mussar was a verb that was negative. There it was, don't Mussar me, which was like, don't try to lecture me on my character. Don't try to tell me what I should do better. it was not always something they relished. So it has largely become available to us in translation through people like Alan Marinas and some of the people who he's worked with who have started, translating books. I mean, I've got something that's a wonderful piece, if any of you are interested, is the Mussar Torah commentary, which is by the Reform Movement, put this out, and the Central Conference of American Rabbis. And what's great about this is that it gives you a short reading, 3, 4, 5 pages, that looks at what characteristic is being explored in that week's Torah portion. And what's great about it is you can use it all year round. And if you miss some, you come back around to them, because you don't always do it every week, most likely. I studied this with a group and we did it every other week. But occasionally we'd have to skip or whatever. So we didn't get to all the chapters yet, right? And the nice thing about the cyclical Torah. And another thing is that you're not the same person when you come back to it a year later. You've changed, you've grown, something has impacted you. So when you read it again or when you explore it again, it just gives you another way of looking at things. And this is all in English and it's all very accessible. And it gives you a little taste of what some of these characteristics are about. I certainly would recommend anything that Alan Marinas has written. He's got lots of very handy things. And if you want to dive deep into the Hebrew, you can find, this is one of the oldest books that's studied in Mussar, Duties of the Heart, which was written in the 12th century, I think, in Spain, Rabbi Pacuda. So there's plenty of old and new, but thankfully so much of it is in translation now, Gail, so that we're able to access it. Some things still aren't, it's just a matter of time. If there's anything you're specifically interested in, I can try to help steer you.
Jason.
Yeah, Adrian.
Is because you've mentioned it goes back to the Orthodox, does Mussar have the same idea of God as the Orthodox?
I don't think of Mussar as having ideas. I think of Mussar as being a tradition that helps us to explore deeper who we are within all of these contexts. And so wherever you are is where you would go with it. But to answer that question a little bit, the way I think you mean it is, a lot of these old texts were written by, Orthodox rabbis, and they were written for observant Orthodox men as their exclusive audience. So they assumed a level of worship and, mitzvah observance that was very much among that community. So yes, it is often a task to work your way through some of these texts in a way where the language is not off-putting, if it is, because it can be very he centered, and it can be very God as king centered. And so the key is to try to find the words there that work for you so that you can get past some of what might be a barrier and find a way to get a meaning out of it. And some texts are certainly better for that than others.
Did you find is there a class or something that you took online, or?
Well, there are a lot of them. I work with the Mussar Institute exclusively personally. There are a few other organizations that do it, that have different kinds of Mussar offerings. And there's classes being offered all the time. I did 2 sets recently of online, the introductory program that they offer, which is a 12-week program, where we explore a bunch of different traits, one after in sequence. So there's also there's some self-paced things too. There's even one, I think it's called the Taste of Mussar, that you can that just gives you, they send you a lesson a week for 4 weeks as just a little way to get a little idea of what it is that this is and see if it's something that appeals to you. I'd be happy to give you some specific guidance on it. I'd be happy to start up Mussar at the temple again if there was enough interest. And as I said, okay, you talk about gratitude and recognizing the good. So just before we, this came out of the Yom Kippur session 2 years ago when I did this in person, and I started to get some interest. I put out feelers, I organized a class, I set a schedule, and then we only had like 4 people commit to it, which wasn't really enough. We really need more than that.
My problem is the stuff is almost always on Sunday, and I'm teaching on Sunday.
Yeah, well,
but that's probably most convenient for everybody else because they're bringing their kids there or they're there already.
well, it was either going to be Sunday or Monday evenings. But what's interesting is that had that class gotten going in person, it would have been shut down about 4 weeks later because that was when all the COVID restrictions hit. And so maybe it was for the good that we didn't start that class, because then we would have been stopped right away and had to figure it all out again. Maybe it was just not meant to happen.
Maybe you could do it online. There might be more.
Well, I would definitely do it online now.
Yeah.
Jason, this
Yeah.
is the first time I've heard you speak regarding Mussar. It seems to me, just from what I've heard, that it's all about directing us in our personal path to Tikkun Olam. Would you say that is what Mussar? This
Yes.
is what it seems to me.
Yes,
That's
it's very personal to you, yes. And
Yeah.
you structure it by having a group that's a support that gives you teaching and work. But as I like to tell people, like we do about 90 minutes every other week as a group. And then after that 90 minutes, you have 13 days and 22 and a half hours by yourself with it, basically, right? So it's all, what do you do with it? And there are lots of suggested practices. There are lots of different ways to engage in it. And at the end of the day, what's going to happen is what you do and how you work with it. And then you'll have a study partner, and you'll actually, I'm exaggerating a little bit, you'll have someone else you'll be able to talk to. And you'll have other material to study with a study partner, we call Havruta. And that gives you someone to bounce things off of and to help you get deeper into understanding where it's going. But yes, at the end of the day, Adrian, it's just us, and however we perceive our creator or higher power or whatever we do or don't feel, that's ultimately, that's where
it's how we live our lives, right? Yes. Thank you so much, and I'm most grateful that you did this today and that I've tuned in, and thank you, and I wish you a very, very good year.
Well, thank you, Adrian, and you too. You have been an inspiration to me, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So what else can I talk about?
Well, thank you for doing this. I am glad me too. I'm glad that I was able to chat. Usually by the end of the service this time, I'm pretty exhausted. You can hardly stand up and talk, So it's been one of the good things about doing it online.
Yeah, I'm propped up in a chair. I'm doing fine.
Yeah, by this time I'm usually going home.
So you've got about 40 minutes until the Yizkor service starts.
Jason, I want to thank you for doing this. And it reminded me of, I took a class from Jason at Temple Bethel on Mussar, and it made a huge difference in my life. And I still do one of the practices where I have 2 pieces of paper in my pocket. And one is I'm the center of the world, and the other one is I'm just dust or ashes. And yeah. So just sort of the balance of, but it's really reminded me of, I need to get back to it. It's hugely important and makes my life so much more fulfilling. So thank you for doing it.
That would be nice if it's online. You could take part 2 in Santa Cruz. Yeah,
I would do it. I would.
They've restructured it a little now, and so we have but you can start back with the beginning stuff. It's all been refreshed and redone. the current program that they start off with, I think, is called Pathway to the Inner Life, I think is what they call it now. And if I'm remembering now, I think I got the weeks wrong when I said it before. I think it's actually 24 weeks. We do it in 3 8-week segments. And in each 8 weeks, you explore 4 traits, each one for 2 weeks. And they're grouped together thematically. So that these 4 and these 4 and then these 4. And they're just opportunities to get an exposure and understanding of these ideas in Jewish tradition. And sometimes it's about learning these words in a different context. For instance, like the practice Deanne's talking about is from the study of humility. And humility is considered by many the most foundational, basic Mussar trait that we focus on. And we almost always start with humility. And it's and one of the practices offered is that sometimes we are too full of ourselves and we need to look at that piece of paper that says, I am nothing but dust and ashes. And sometimes we are debasing ourselves and not recognizing our value. And we need to look at the other piece of paper that says the whole world was created just for me. Because at different times we are not the same person. And part of what Mussar encourages you to do is look at yourself in different situations. Are you the same person? And few of us are, I promise you, with your spouse or with your coworkers or with your kids or with your parents or your siblings. Most of us are different in different situations. And it invites you to ask, you know, do you take up too much space in some of your relationships, but not as much in others? And kind of look at that and try to understand where you are on that. Are you only angry with certain people? Why? You know, are you patient with some people and not with others? And it just gives you an opening to, you know, to keep looking at all the different aspects of who you are. And there's a saying in one of these books, I'll get it wrong, but it's something to the effect of, this is the work of a lifetime, and that's why you've been given a lifetime to do it. It's not overnight stuff, but I will tell you, you want inspiration? One of the first people I studied with was a couple, and they used to facilitate at a senior center where one of their parents lived, and the average age of the participants in their group was 90. And these were newcomers to Mussar in their 90s. And it tells you that there is no point at which you know, are too old to start. There is so much that you can gain at any point in your life. And that was kind of what I was hoping to convey.
As long as the candle stays alight.
Exactly. The candle is still burning. So,
right.
And,
I love
and
that.
And that's where we are right now in this day, right? We've got a couple hours left before sundown, and what are we going to do with it? How are we going to inspire ourselves and push through to the end?
I love that analogy of the candle. It's beautiful. Beautiful analogy.
It really is. Especially when you're 80.
There are some 80-year-olds whose candles burn much brighter than anyone else I know. I mean, I tell you, do you know a candle brighter than Carol Lee? I don't.
Oh my gosh.
I do not.
No.
I do not. That lady shines into every room she enters, and
that's for sure.
With her
And
energy
joy,
and passion, it's way above anything I've ever had in my life.
And the energy.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Jason, have you run across a book by A.J. Jacobs called Thanks a Million?
No.
It documents his tracking down and thanking each and every person involved in producing his morning cup of coffee.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my.
That is wonderful.
It is a wonderful book. I'll get it to you.
I see a few people have sent me some direct messages, so I'll take a look at those when we're done. And I'll put my email in the chat, and anyone who wants to follow up with me on anything should feel free to do that. And if you have any questions, or if you want to see about joining up with something, usually Mussar Institute starts up new groups sometime after the high holidays, they start to open up groups again. And there's actually multiple options. I mean, if there were only a couple people who were interested, I could recommend that you just join. I facilitate groups, but I'm just one of many. And, you could be joined up with whoever's available and starting a new group. There's a lot that are offered at all different times of day. And I would not want to claim that I am the only person you should study with, because I might be someone you have some familiarity with. But I'll tell you, I've had some of these other people as facilitators, and they're fantastic, and I learned so much from them and their wisdom. And so I wouldn't want you to contain your interest only to something here, but it would be wonderful if we can get, really, I honestly, if I had at least 6 people, it would be enough to commit to a group. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but when it ends up actually having to book a schedule and lock yourself in and commit to days and times and to pay a little fee, you'd be surprised how many people drop.
Yeah, sometimes when we're in regular life, it was tough to get a schedule going. I know for me, I was teaching every night pretty much, and during the day, I had no time for anything outside of my own work, Now all my classes are canceled pretty much, so I got a lot of time on my hands.
Yeah, right now the group that I'm leading, I do on Sundays at 11 a.m. and but which would free me up to do something here Sunday evenings, maybe Monday evenings are usually open for me. So we have some options. So we'll see. Maybe I'll put out some feelers in the weekly email and just ask people to contact me, and we'll see if we can get a critical mass necessary to get something started.
You probably will. My guess is you will.
I always think so, but I also think it's not up to me. My part is to put myself out there, and it's not up to me to finish the work, right? Isn't that the piece from Pierre Cayavot, right?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
We're not up always to complete the task, but
You take the first step. Yes.
yeah. And I love this, and
It shows. It shows.
well, it's helped me tremendously. And I feel like it's given me a better inner life and more spiritual connection. And, it's helped me be closer to the person I want to be. And that's,
That's
who I am
good.
in the world. I mean, that's what it comes down to, right?
That's great.
I totally agree with that, Jason. I think that so much of the work we find ourselves doing spiritually, academically, out in the world, it's really this quest to become, and I think that's the grand opportunity we have before us, especially this day. It's that becoming process that is so big and so beautiful and so inspiring. And I think if we keep our minds set and focused on just every day taking a little step, just a little step, we see the big returns.